Hello, welcome back to the Power of Self-Love virtual retreat. I'm Tassel Faith Shamebrook. I'm so glad you're all here, and I could almost faint from excitement to welcome our next guests, the most amazing doctors, Gay and Kathleen Hendricks. Hello, beautiful people.
Hello.
Hello, hello. Are we coming through? Can you hear us okay?
We can, yes. Yeah, I can hear you. Everyone else, can you hear? Okay. Oh my gosh. I love you both so much. I love your work. I don't know if you remember, but about 12 years ago, I attended one of your workshops, Katie, in Boulder. It was amazing, and your books have changed my life. And when you agreed to do this interview, it was one of the best days of my life.
Oh, well, that's very kind. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for making use of our books and things over the years. That's a heartwarming thing for an author to hear.
Oh my goodness. The first book I read of yours, Conscious Loving, just was probably one of the first healthy relationship understandings I ever had in my early 20s. And it's really informed my work and my relationship. So I'm just so grateful to sit with you here for this hour. Would it be okay if I started off just with sharing your amazing bios?
Yeah, fine. Just, sure. Yeah, jump right in.
Yeah, okay. Katie just reminded me before we got on the air that I wrote the book, Learning to Love Yourself, the very first summer I knew her.
Oh, and amazing.
So 42 years ago.
Yeah. So on legal pads with a Bic pen.
Yep.
That just tells you how long ago that was.
Right. Before iPads and MacBooks. And
well, actually before
computers, really.
Before computers.
Yeah. Right. Pre-computer. That's amazing. That is just amazing. How amazing. Oh my gosh. That's a beautiful sharing. So, Doctors Gay and Kathleen Hendricks have been pioneers in the fields of body intelligence and relationship transformation for more than 40 years. They've mastered ways to translate powerful concepts and life skills into experiential processes where people can discover their own body intelligence and easily integrate life-changing skills. Katie and Gay have empowered hundreds of coaches around the world to add a body intelligence perspective to enhance fields from medicine to sports psychology, education, and personal growth. Together and singly, they have authored more than 40 books. Oh my goodness, amazing. Including bestsellers such as Conscious Loving, The Big Leap, Conscious Loving, Ever After, How to Create Thriving Relationships at Midlife and Beyond, and The Genius Zone. They have appeared on more than 500 television and radio programs, including Oprah, 48 Hours, and many others. Just thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure and an honor to be with you. What can we tell you today?
Oh, my goodness. What would you like to talk about? I think we discussed a little bit learning to love yourself and its impact on thriving relationships with others.
Yeah, well, relationships have this magical power to them that when you get into a relationship, suddenly energy rises because two people are synergizing and the energy level rises, and that pushes to the surface old stuff from the past going way back to day one or day minus 9 months even sometimes. Some of us never get over the way we were conceived and, because of various difficulties that come into play. But relationship pushes things to the surface, and then how you deal with those things determines whether the relationship flourishes or withers.
Yes. And really particularly over the last several years, it's become so clear that at the bottom of all issues is an inability to presence, to meet something that's going on. Really, the essence of loving yourself is to be able to be with. And we've certainly seen that that's what so many people are longing for right now, is the ability to be with all of the things that are arising and all of the unknown, but also to be able to be with what is arising in relationship from all of the stresses that we've been experiencing and all of the unknowns. So learning to love yourself is, we find over and over again, is the key and the doorway to bigger discoveries.
Because a lot of the things that emerge in ourselves can only be healed with love and acceptance by ourselves. We can't get that from outside. And a lot of times what we've found in working with people is that fear is at the base of a lot of the issues people carry around. On the surface, it may look like anger or sadness, but and those are important, but way down underneath that is a lot of the things we're really scared about. And on one of our websites, we have a video from a guy, a professional, I forget what he was, but he said that one word that we taught him changed his marriage. And the one word was to say, I'm scared instead of I'm angry. Oh. And by dropping down to a more fundamental feeling in his body, he was able to get to the source of things. No matter how many times he felt about how he was angry and that kind of thing, it didn't get to the real heart of the matter, which was underneath his heart, down in his belly.
Yes. Wow. That's so powerful to hear that, and the vulnerability of voicing that, and what that would, how the partner might experience that, rather than feeling the anger response.
Yeah, rather than the sense of pushing against each other, the whole fighting back thing that so many people are taught to do. When you actually open, and like opening your belly, showing your belly to another, that opens a kind of possibility of connecting at a deeper level that can include fear and it can include sadness, but it also gives this ability to co-create with each other, rather than each of you being caught in your positions with each other. So turning fear into love really happens through presence. And we've often thought too that loving yourself is really being able to be with, to be in the same space with, because we have a sense that love is sort of this magical thing that nobody knows how to access, but it's actually very simple. In the moment, can I be with this? Can I be with me? Can I be with what's occurring?
Amazing, amazing. It's about honoring, accepting everything that's arising in me, what's arising in our relationship. Can I be with it all? Yeah. Now, have you all traversed this through many different experiences? Did you start at this place?
We started absolutely perfect. We've just always been this enlightened.
No, we're here because we've tried. I mean, we use everything we teach, and we discovered everything we teach out of our personal experience.
Yes.
Like in our first year, we realized that in order to create what we wanted to create, we actually had to sit down and do some conscious intention work. Like, what did we want to have happen? And we came up with these certain things that one of them that we always wanted to live in truth and transparency. So there was nothing held back or nothing unsaid. So we made this commitment to revealing rather than concealing. And we'd also found that the only thing that got through a lot of arguments was when both of us took responsibility for what was going on, rather than pointing the finger at blame.
Or pointing the finger of blame at ourselves. So actually wondering about how we were co-creating. So that actually allows us to reclaim our creativity. We think of responsibility as being about blame or burden, but it's actually about consciously creating rather than unconsciously repeating patterns.
Right.
Yeah. And the power of conscious intention. Most people, I would guess, have never sat down and figured out what the conscious intentions are for their life and their relationships.
Yes.
But nobody would ever go on a vacation trip not knowing where they were going,
or how they were going to get there.
Right. And so, it's a little bit, but we really practice what we teach, and that's got us here.
Yeah.
And every day of my life, I look back at what we created and I say, wow, that was just done one little thing at a time. Now it looks like a tall building.
Right. It looks like a big, like, oh, you just happened into that. But one of the things I wanted to underline that we've practiced over and over again is recommitting. Because people now, many more people understand that committing gets you into the game, but recommitting gets you from where you are to where you want to go. Yeah. And we've recommitted to various practices literally hundreds of times. So I really want to share with people that when you mess up or you forget or you break an agreement or you just go unconscious, it doesn't help then to beat yourself up.
Right.
That does not further your evolution. What really furthers is to go, okay, I recommit now to practicing responsibility with you rather than blaming. Yeah. And then taking action on that recommitment, that's what gets you to where you want to go. So we have this whole instant gratification culture that has evolved, and it's also an instant throwaway. And that tends to happen with relationships as well. If there's a problem, people tend to just throw the relationship away rather than looking at what do I want to recommit to, what needs to be expressed, what needs to be felt here so that we can continue moving toward the magic that we want to create rather than just recycling old issues.
That is so beautiful. What a great word and how you've described it. It sounds like we can continually recommit. We can continually take ownership of our own behaviors, our own thought patterns, and what do I want to do differently? What do we want to create together differently? This idea that you're a team, your teammates, you're evaluating, okay, what have we created here? Do we want to keep creating that? Do we want to create something different? Yeah.
One of the questions that we often ask couples when we're working with them to help them begin the healing process is, would you be willing to do all this as allies rather than enemies? Yes. And so we get them to make a commitment to being allies rather than enemies. And oftentimes that's the thing that actually gets both of them into the room, is that they both take responsibility for the healing process.
That was so important to me early in our relationship, because one of the patterns that we decided to stop was the pattern of blaming and criticizing each other. So we committed to that, but it took about 2 years of really noticing, stopping, making a shift to really integrate that so that it became more of a choice rather than something that we were working on. And something that really made a big difference for me was, rather than saying, you're criticizing me again, was to say, I commit to seeing you as my ally, because I realized I was listening for criticism. And so in order to connect with me on that unconscious level, Gay or anybody else, I think, would have come in criticizing because that was what I was ordering up. And so when I began to see, I am listening for criticism, and then started to actually say, I commit to seeing you as my ally, that just made an incredible difference. And then we started partnering more rather than doing the na that so many people get into, of trying to control each other's feelings. And boy, it created so much magic that we like to say that we've had no blame and criticism in this house in this century.
Wow. In 22 years.
Yeah, well, we know because
over 22 years.
Because we bought this house around 2001, and we know for a fact nobody's criticized anybody since we bought the house. So we can remember it way back there. But it does take practice, because you have to kind of catch yourself in the moment of something like criticism and blame, and then take responsibility for it. But it's a very powerful thing, because the act of taking responsibility is an act of owning your creativity too. Because when you go in a, like if you're having an argument with your beloved, or your sometime beloved anyway, you're saying, you did this to me, and why did you do this? And you're ruining my life. Of course, your partner doesn't see it that way. He or she gets into that and says, wait a minute, I'm the victim here. You're the one who does this and this and this. You're the one who's ruining my life. And that argument can literally go on for dozens of years. People keep doing that because it's the whole victim, persecutor. Who's the victim? I'm the victim. No, you're the victim. So it's that whole thing that goes back and forth. Yeah. And there's really only one way out of it. And that's for both people to say, why would I be creating this conflict right now? To go from ha to
that wonder move. And the move that I like to encourage people to do before they take responsibility is to love themselves for what they did. Because that's where that little sidetrack comes in of, oh God, there I go again. I'm never going to learn this. Or if you would stop doing this, I would stop. So we get sidetracked really easily. So just taking a moment, we have something we call fear melters that helps people to really befriend their fear. And one of them is love scoops, where you just give yourself love in that moment. And so if you would take just a second to just love yourself, I did that. And I can love that about me too. I can be with that, and then recommit or claim creativity or appreciate your partner, make a move that creates connection rather than division. But we leave out that loving yourself. We think that I have to earn love rather than love is right here all the time. We can love ourselves for our experience, and then that creates an opening for new choices.
Yeah. Oh, so beautiful. Could we take it down to like an actual example, maybe? Because I really want to put into practice all this amazing wisdom you're sharing. Like, for instance, let's say there's a couple and one of them maybe is just late a lot.
Oh, that's a great example. Yeah.
Okay. And the other person maybe feels an urge to complain, blame, criticize. Can you change? How would this beautiful wisdom that you're sharing, how would we put that into play for that couple?
Okay. You know who popped into my mind?
Please.
From when we lived in Colorado, the couple from Chicago who she walked really fast.
Yes.
And he was always kind of dawdling
and behind her. Yeah.
Anyway, it's a common pattern.
It's a very common pattern.
Because the ones I thought of were probably 40 years ago. But we've seen a lot of that kind of stuff. So here's the thing. A lot of people come into relationship as a polarity. Mr. Logical, intellectual teams up with Ms. Emotional. Or
Miss Tidy.
Mr. Timid and doesn't speak up teams up with Mrs. Loudmouth. But here's the thing, when we come into relationship like that, the thing that causes the problem is one person makes, it's like I make my logical, the one who's right, and I criticize you for being emotional. And on the other side, the person...
Well, if you would just be more feelingful rather than having that stick up your butt, we would have a lot more fun in our relationship.
So that's the polarity that people start in. Yeah. And here's the thing. This is where allies come into it again, because the only way to really thrive in a long-term relationship is to let yourself be taught by the other person and learn. See, because Mr. Shy Guy gets into a relationship with Mrs. Outgoing because there's something in that he wants for himself.
And he also is scared of it.
And so the way to do it is just to accept your partner as your learning buddy, your learning ally, that you're learning from each other.
It's so important.
We say one of the common polarities is sharp pencils versus happy idiots. One of them is very precise and then the other one, we had a couple, a 75-year-old couple, and she was so messy, and he was a Navy, admiral or something, and he had to have every pencil straight on the desk. And they were once in a hotel room, and housekeeping came in to clean it up and called security because she thought the room had been ransacked by thieves. And it was just her normal explosive aspect. But anyway, but when we really came down to it, it was a part of themselves they needed to learn to love, because she needed to learn that person underneath who was hungry for order. But then when she invited a Navy captain into her life, resisted authority all the time.
Yes.
But what she was craving for was a way to feel more orderly inside.
Yeah.
And he is looking for more wild, crazy, authentic feeling inside. He's got everything above his neck cut off. And she's there to teach him that. But as long as we maintain our separate, pushing the other person away, we'll never get to that. The only way is to say, okay, I accept you as my teacher in the area of emotion. And I open myself to that rather than criticizing it all the time.
So with regard to the being late, and we see this all the time. In fact, one of our questions for couples often is, are you the one who waits or the one who is waited for?
Oh, that's brilliant.
And it's pretty much, that's what happens in a lot of partnerships. So in that situation, there is definitely something to learn, because time often is tied up with adrenaline, going really fast, not really locating yourself, presencing yourself in the moment so you can actually respond. So it's all reactive and fear-based, adrenaline-based. So the person who's going really fast needs to learn to locate and to actually find themselves in the moment so they can relate to a real person over there. And the person who's going really slowly, I think, is often afraid of the unknown and what's going to happen if I'm spontaneous and I make a mistake. And so the learning is such an opportunity for each person to be allies, but also to open up this co-creative space. If we both get interested in learning from each other, it opens up this third space, a kind of a magical vortex that spirals more love, more invention, more intuition, and more joy. Because I think that's what's lacking for a lot of people in their relationships, is that relationships can be fun. Relationships can be a source of joy. I hear so much, even still currently, well, relationships are hard work and you got to compromise. And if you're going to have a long-term relationship, you're going to have to give up a lot. So get used to it. And we find that just is bunk, that relationships can be a source of ongoing discovering and joy lifelong.
Yeah. Oh, that's so amazing. And what I hear you saying is the relationship we can think of as being the teacher, this third sacred space that we're both somewhat surrendering to, being humble towards. What is the relationship teaching me? What are you teaching me?
Yes.
Yeah. And we often compare a relationship to a home you live in.
Yes.
Because if you're not going to sell the home,
right,
you're there.
Don't keep messing it up every day.
You might want to fix it up.
And that's I told that to a couple the other day that's really into real estate. They own several houses. They got it.
That was a good image.
Yeah. So what we want to do is cultivate an attitude of bowing and celebrating the relationship and taking it on as your teacher, because every relationship interaction has something in it, some kind of message in it. And if you can open up to those relationship interactions, that's like you don't need therapy. You're open to the moment. You're open to what's coming in. And that, I think, is, we always say that peace of mind comes from total participation, from being willing to be with the fullness of yourself, not hiding out from yourself, hugging yourself with open arms. That's why learning to love yourself, it wasn't the first book I wrote, but it was the first book I wrote from my heart. I had made a decision just before that one of the key purposes of my life was to transmit the things I knew in a way that I only wrote from my heart. It was not to make a buck, although I'm fine with that too, but that wasn't what it was all about. It was about expressing the things I considered essential from my heart, not through my scientific mind. Because at Stanford, I had great training in the scientific mind and how to write journal articles and things like that. But suddenly I realized these things we were talking about, I don't want them just read by 500 clinical psychology students a year. I was out after the Oprah crowd, and I'm glad we did that. Although my professors early on were like,
betrayal.
Oh, right. Too mainstream or
Right.
Then when I started going on Oprah and things, it was like they branded me some sort of a crazy radical or something.
Right.
Well, you are. A sane, crazy radical.
Well, I was trained as a classical psychologist, but I say the real fun is in rock and roll psychology. Because classical psychology is like classical music. It has to be supported by wealthy donors.
Right.
But what matters to me is what people are doing out on the streets. And that's where we want to be communicating with people where they really live.
One of the things that just comes through so powerfully is you both seem to have so much joy. You're just sort of spilling over in joy and towards each other and within yourselves and within your work. And how has that manifested? Have you always been joyful, or is this part of the self-love and this beautiful relationship you have? And
well, I would say that at the core, I was joyful. But it got covered over pretty early on, various stresses and things going on in my family. But when I met Gay saw my essence right away and has always seen my essence. And we created, first of all, an essence connection. We recognized each other in the very first moment that we connected. And that's really been a through line through our whole relationship, in which more and more joy has emerged. But I would say the practice that's made such a difference in that is appreciation. The active role of being sensitively aware of and noticing the unique qualities of each other and giving appreciation way more than giving any kind of criticism.
It started out at the very beginning, though, because I was just blown away that I could get somebody like her to talk to me. And to this day, I'm totally blown away that I get to be married to her even 42 years later. So to me, it's been a constant, like an opening of a treasure chest of wonders all the time. And so I think, I've probably already told you today how blown away I am that I get to be married to you.
Well, actually, you left early this morning. So today, I do experience that from you every day, but this is the first time I've heard this today. So, but this happens to us. Like when Gay walks into the room, I feel a thrill. That's just a, And I think that what we need to do is to remove the barriers to experiencing that all the time, because I think humans do love to be together. And if you're drawn to somebody and you want to create a relationship, it really is that exchange of appreciation and presencing with each other and focusing on your creativity that you can actually refresh your relationship over and over again. So it's not the same old that people talk about. I've been exploring that through dance as well as through, different kinds of workshops. So there's a lot more dance than there was when we got together, a lot more using movement and the whole act of coming together and creating and then individuating is part of what really gives the energy and the refreshment to the relationship.
Yes. And are there times when maybe one of you is feeling the pull to individuate, but maybe the other person isn't, and that can be a little uncomfortable?
Yes. And that problem is completely eliminated through heartfelt communication. But it actually, as you become more sensitive to those, we come wired from the factory with two big urges, an urge to merge and union, to have ourselves be in union with another person.
And something bigger than you.
Yeah. Right. So to be lost in that connection. Yeah. Yet at the same time, we have a second urge, just as important, for autonomy, for being in our own skin, for trusting ourselves, not just trusting in relationship. So we need to individuate just as much as we need to union. Yeah. And all those patterns are laid down in the first year of life, because the first 6 months of life really have to be about union. They have to be held. You have to be held. You can't crawl around even.
You can't feed yourself.
You can't feed yourself.
Right.
And so all of that comes through union. And how many of us have disturbances in the field of union in the first year of our life? A lot of us. But the second 6 months of life, where it's all about crawling and exploring, going out and being on your own and being safe out on your own. Those are key things that go on, but in one way or another, they're reflected throughout life, because we've had couples we've worked with that were so lopsided in their individuation union. I'm thinking of one couple we worked with in Colorado who had never spent more than 45 minutes consciously apart from each other in their whole marriage.
Oh, wow. That was pretty stunning.
That was absolutely stunning. We took notes extensively on that one. So, and the thing is, what happened, I sent them out for a walk where I had them go separate directions around the block.
Yeah.
And by the time they were on the second leg of the block, they were both sick to their stomachs. It was like a physical withdrawal. Yeah. And so that's a couple that's extremely too much of this, glued to each other. And it was amazing to see what happened as they were able to individuate. The first obvious thing, she came in weighing probably 240 pounds and lost probably 80 pounds as a result of that work, because, she had not individuated.
Yeah.
And so, and neither had he, obviously. So we need to be open to union and open to autonomy, and know that both of those can only be done by practice, by one little choice at a time.
Yeah. I was remembering also that when there's that flow of love and connection, distance doesn't really make any difference. I was teaching, back in the day, I would often be in Europe for maybe 3 weeks at a time, teaching our work. And I remember picking up the phone one time in Berlin. At the very same time, I said, hello. Gay said, hi. And the phone didn't ring.
Didn't even ring.
So, a 9-hour time difference. We were both tuned in and picked up the phone at the same time. So that was just a great illustration to me that you can be physically located in different places, or energetically really be focused on like developing a project, or, Gay writing a book where he's really absorbed in it. And in the early part of our relationship, I used to feel like, where is he?
Yes,
and,
right.
I want some attention too, but then I felt guilty about it because he was writing a book. But now that we've really established that flow of connection through presence and loving each other and ourselves, it really doesn't make any difference. Although, of course, if we have preferences, like Gay at one point, he said, it's too long for you to be away. Would you consider not being away for so long? And that turned into a whole changing the way that I taught so that it was more condensed. People could experience it more fully, but I didn't have to be away as long. So, and now, of course, we have Zoom. So.
Yeah, right. Oh, that's so amazing.
By the way, what part of the world are you in?
I'm in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm originally from upstate New York, but I absolutely love Nashville. It's a very high vibe place with music.
And have you developed a taste for Nashville hot chicken?
Oh, it's very famous here. I'm mostly vegetarian, but how about you? Have you eaten Nashville hot chicken?
I have, yes.
Oh, awesome. So you've been to Nashville?
And everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, awesome.
But whenever I think of hot chicken, I think of Nashville because that's where it sort of started in my experience.
Yeah. Nashville's a great place. I'm really happy to live here. Along this same topic, I'm just curious with self-love as well, because it's self, that's sort of the individual love, and then the love for each other. Is that also a bit of a balancing, harmonizing as I love myself and I take care of myself? And how does that interact with the relationship?
The way we say it is, you can only love another to the extent that you love yourself.
Yes.
So love will bring up stuff that you need to love.
Yeah. Yes. Not that your partner needs to love, and you need to tell them that they need to love them.
And the temptation is to blame the partner for it because
I felt fine.
I felt fine until you showed up.
Right.
So therefore it's your fault.
I mean, I've actually heard a couple say, I was doing just fine in my life until you showed up. Yeah. But what we really don't realize is that synergy pushes stuff to the surface that needs to be loved.
Yeah.
And what was just occurring to me too is the word entitlement. And I think it's kind of a rampant disease right now of like, I have the right to, like, I have the right to your attention. I have the right to your love just because. And if I don't have it, it's your fault. Rather than being grateful for the opportunity to have an interaction with another person, the opportunity to learn something, to appreciate rather than feeling entitled. That was a really big shift that I saw, because in my parents' generation, your marriage license was actually an entitlement license. You were entitled to, like my mother was entitled to being provided for by my dad. And he was entitled to having dinner at a certain time. And none of these had they actually chosen. It was just what was in the culture. So a lot of what we each in partnerships can create is a new possibility for partnership in general. That it can be a source of everybody finding their own genius. What is something you want to be contributing into the world, whether it's something formal or just a way, a particular way of creating. Like I make just an incredible soup. I make this green soup that's just incredible. And it comes from my loving to create an environment where everything is nourishing. But Gay doesn't feel entitled to that. And if I don't feel like cooking, I don't. But at the beginning of our relationship, that was something like, well, I felt that I had to do that. So all of those roles, we can totally reinvent those. We don't have to step into those and try and fulfill them. In my mother's case, it was a source of lifelong misery because she was an artist. She probably never should have been a mother. I'm grateful that she was because I get to be here. But if she had given more attention to her art, we would all have benefited. Gay's just kind of keeping quiet over here.
To
that. That's to me a really, I think there's such an interesting piece there about women as mothers and their dreams and their aspirations for their lives that often get sidelined for the dreams of their children or sometimes their husbands, and sort of the real sadness of that for everyone. You
live in a city of dreams.
Right. Yeah. And so what I take from what you shared is just a blank slate for what a relationship can be, for what a partnership can be, for what our life can be, that we are just the creators of what, however we want it to come through.
That's exactly right. And we just made up the life we wanted. We wanted to live in a relationship where nobody ever had to hide anything. And we wanted to live in a relationship where there was no blame and criticism. And so we just figured out kind of the technology of how to do it. And then wrote some books about it.
Yeah, amazing.
Yes. The other thing I wanted to just share with you is that people are only, I think, currently beginning to understand how authenticity, being real, is so sexy.
Oh my goodness. I agree.
And that people get into trouble when they keep secrets, when they hide, when they withhold. Yes. But when you're being authentic, that spontaneity, it has such liveliness and such a spark in it that I would rather hear the authentic out-breath than a whole bunch of, oh, you're so wonderful and I can't learn all of that, BS.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why we say the only sex organ that really matters is your throat, being willing to speak honestly, because that opens up the flow of life energy, which includes sexual energy.
Oh, that is so true. I love the word transparency. And vulnerability. And I so agree with you. When people are vulnerable and transparent, it is so attractive. It's so mind-blowing. It's to see someone's authentic self and knowing they have the courage to show up that way, even if someone might judge them or disagree with them, but they have that commitment, that loyalty to their authenticity above all else. It's so attractive.
It's so attractive. And I think it comes from loving yourself enough to let other people see who you really are.
Yes.
And just one moment of that can make just such a huge difference, that in the, I can be here. I belong here.
Yes.
I'm welcome here on the earth, and that I can choose to be myself and be accepted. And of course, it starts with each of us.
Yes, absolutely. And that solidarity with yourself. I'm going to be me no matter what. I am loyal to who I am. I'm going to show up as myself. Sometimes I say, to me, the greatest luxury is to be myself. And I say that because for so many decades I wasn't. So it still kind of feels like a luxury to me to be myself. And it's just the best feeling, because there's so much peace within when we're not putting on these different masks and pretending. And it's amazing.
It's definitely worth celebrating.
Yes. And maybe the last question, if you don't mind, I could ask you is, what are some of your favorite or most powerful self-love practices that maybe you each do to share with the audience?
Well, I would say number one is meditating, that we have a meditation practice that when we're in the same space, we meditate together. But we've meditated gay over 50 years, I think.
It's my 50th anniversary of being a daily meditator. So.
And for me, over 40 years. And I would say that as a couple, one of the best things that you can do is to have some kind of a practice where you can share space with each other, where you're not dealing with any kind of content. You're really being together in the same space, whether that's breathing or meditating or taking a walk around the block or taking a bath together or listening to music together. Having some kind of an essence practice, I think, makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Another thing that we do are we look after our bodies a lot. Like I work out at the gym 3 days a week with a trainer, and play golf a lot and go for walks and things like that, because the flow of physical energy, good physical energy, is also a key to a good relationship, because you need to be fit in order to enjoy the true benefits of a close relationship. And so, and we do all sorts of things. I see we have a book over here called 10 Poems for Your Marriage. So we read each other poetry a lot, and also find little tidbits. Like I happen to love bulldogs. And so I sent Katie a picture of a bulldog the other day that I thought was just the most amazing looking bulldog I'd ever seen. And we have two British short-hair cats.
They were in here, but they've now exited.
So we exchange a lot of energy around our cats. You know, we don't have kids around anymore. So we have two 9-year-old cats. So we often say, so sweet. 2 cats under the age of 10 years old. Like,
and I say the other thing that we each focus on our own creativity, but also supporting each other's creativity. Like, how can I support you in your project? And we often ask each other, what is it that you really want? And that really helps to evoke what we want to create individually or together. And so that focus really fills the reservoir.
Yeah.
We've only been together 42 years. I can't wait to see what's next.
We have a really interesting question from one of our guests here. If it resonates for you to answer, Mara Moon says, I love their books, an inspiring example. I'd love to know if they remember each other from past lives and or feel that they will be together beyond this life.
No. I always tell my students, look, this life has so much interesting to it. I wouldn't spend a lot of time thinking about the past or future, because you want to have all of your attention focused on creating heaven on earth for you now, rather than putting in time so you'll have some future reward.
So this presence practice, just really, we're in this life right now. Let's concentrate on this.
Which is really
I don't care if I've been together with her in a past life.
Because this is this life. I think it's also an aspect of loving yourself.
Yeah.
Of really committing to fully enjoying being here now.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Because we can live in this orientation, this culture of I'll be happy when.
Yes.
Yeah. When this happens, and then our life just goes by. Yeah. So just
when I catch myself thinking that, I just love myself and go back to loving in the present.
Yes. Loving the present moment. Oh my goodness. It's just a delight to be in your energy. Your relationship with each other just seems so beautiful. And you both just glow with joy and happiness. Just a delight to be with you. All the comments here, just someone says, I love these teachers and these lessons they are sharing. Wow. Someone says, hi, Gay and Kathleen. I've been following you since 1989.
Fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Wow. How long is that? Oh, it's like 33 years. Yeah. Amazing. Asking if there's going to be a replay. I'm recording this and there will be a replay. So I think everyone on is just so grateful to have spent this time with you. How can people find out more about your work?
3 places. We have our seminars in relationship work are on hendricks.com, hendricks.com. Lots and lots of free videos about how to befriend fear and how to presence yourself and how to have more joy in life on foundationforconsciousliving.org. And we also have a Facebook page that has daily relationship tips, and that is Hearts in Harmony. So you can find us in lots of different places, and we'd love to have you join the community.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much. This was one of the greatest blessings of my life to be able to interview you and sit with both of you in this forum. I'm just grateful. Thank you so much for spending your time here with us today.
Thank you so
for
much.
Your fine questions. You're obviously in your genius zone.
Yes.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. So much love to you. And thank you for all your amazing work for all of us.
Thank you. All right. Bye for now.
Okay. Bye-bye. And wow, that was amazing. That was amazing. They are just role models. They've been role models of mine for 25 years. So that's the end of day 1.